Phil Shabazz here with my pal,
Steve Sherman,
Steve Sherman, and we are the
the
Smiling
Smiling
Pharisee.
Pharisees.
What's up, Steve? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's so nice to see your face. I miss you, man. This is awesome.
I know. I miss you too. It's just there's not a whole lot better than just being in Capernaum, just getting in a fight with Jesus and the disciples, right?
Kind of like it. It was kind of fun.
It was pretty good. And today, this is our second time getting together. What we wanted to do is wanted to be able to reflect on episode 3 now that it is come to streaming, and we wanted some friends with us to reflect with us, right?
Yes, some
Yes, so
special
we
guests. Nobody knows who's going to be here but you and I.
that's right. And so we're going to introduce them right now. The first guest, you know him pretty well because when there's blood, he gets mad, and especially if that blood has something to do with Veronica and Jesus. He's gonna get mad, but then he redeems himself in season 4. Please welcome our pal Jed Lowell Byers. There he is. What's up, dude?
Hey, hey, you guys.
Great to see you, man.
Good to see you. Happy to be
Oh,
here.
dude, thanks for coming on and having a chat with us today. This is gonna be fun.
Let's do it. I'm smiling too. We're all smiling.
We're
Smiling
all smiling.
and
Steve,
Jed.
do you want to introduce our second guest?
Yes, you first saw her in season 1, episode 8 at Matthew's dinner party. And then we didn't see her again until season 4. And I can't wait to hear the story about her phone call. Let's give it up for Nene.
Nene Nawoko.
Hey.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you doing, Nene?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to do this.
Oh, this is great. So Steve and I had our first conversation, and it was just a reflection on the sneak peek, right, Steve?
Hmm. And then we
And
just started talking about everything, really.
yeah, and that's what this is. This is basically a conversation between cast members and just reflecting back on the experiences we had together, specifically episode 3 and our experience with The Chosen. And when Steve and I did that first one, just the Chosen community just really just seemed to enjoy it. And I think what's special about the 4 of us is that for all those days, 5, 6, 7 days, we all got to experience all of that together
Yeah.
from different perspectives, at least the big scene from episode 3 of season 4. So maybe a good place to start is I think that I'd love to start with both Lowell and Nene. Lowell, like introduce yourself to folks. Like from our perspective, like I know Lowell as an incredible actor. We become close friends. I respect you very, very much and have learned from you as well. And I'm so thankful you're part of this cast and that we've all been able to become friends. But tell people how you made it to The Chosen and a little bit, because this dude's an MFA. So I bow down to the MFA. How did you find your way to The
Wait a
Chosen?
minute, wait a minute. He's a what?
He's going to explain right now.
I'm a master, Steve. I'm a master. Okay, the master's. Yeah. So I just was watching episode 2 last night and of season 4 and actually watching some of Jonathan and Jesus, the documentary, and just sort of wanted to have a refresher of everything and was tracking my start to all of this. And I come on to receive the casting notice about season 3, and I just discovered season 2, and I was just starting to watch the show. I think what I just loved about it was in the pilot, this idea that you're not starting with Jesus' story. He kind of becomes a cameo. He shows up on the scene, which adds to the suspense of it all, which is just so wonderful. You're waiting for him to show up, but you don't know when. And when he does, it's so marvelous and wonderful and powerful. Um, and so anyway, yeah, I received a casting notice for it from my agent, and it was for Jairus, the part of Jairus, and it was that big arc, and I auditioned for it in March of 22, and I heard nothing back. And like as you guys know, when that happens, you just say, okay, c'est la vie, moving on, moving forward. Don't know what's going to happen. I went off, I got married, went on my honeymoon. I came back from my honeymoon a week later. I got a call from my agent saying I'm supposed to be out in Texas next week shooting on these 2 episodes.
What a nice honeymoon gift.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I said, oh, for the role I auditioned for. I said, no, it's a different role. It's the man. I said, okay, who's the man? He's the man. He's going to be doing some man stuff. Okay. Which is hilarious. Just a little quick side note too. I'd played a part earlier that year on The Promised Land playing man. So now this was my upgrade to the man. So I'm moving on up in the world.
So what episode did you get your name?
That was 4.
Okay.
He gave me that. But I mean, just the experience of, as you guys know, as we all know, being on set and just a well-oiled machine. People who really, every single person really wants to be there, really wants to help out in any way they can, where every single person is doing that, has a task, is my God, when it was hot, people just being right on top of you with waters, or a fan or whatever they could do, get you in the shade, or
Umbrellas.
I love just that. And my character adding some people not necessarily liking what I was doing to Veronica in the first season, and being a little bit upset with me, and talking to Dallas immediately when I came on set, and him saying, listen, we do not play villains on this show like villains. If you see yourself as that, that's not what we're doing here. And that every character has a story, and they have a reason for what they're doing, and a purpose. So that was
Did that note mean anything to you at that time? If you told that to me, I'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, right. I think it did, because as you show up here, I'm coming on to a show that's already well in full motion, right? And everyone, at least within the crew, who's read the script, knows that this guy is gonna be doing some mean things, but I have my reason for what I'm doing. I'm just trying to respect your guys' order and what I've heard from you. But I think it did it. It just made me feel like, okay, well, yeah, I'm playing the story. I'm in the scene here. That's what I'm doing.
When I came in,
my family.
When I came into the synagogue in season 4, episode 3, and my character, I don't want to give any spoilers for well, people have seen it. So here's the best. If you haven't seen it yet, just plug your ears.
Yeah.
I come into the synagogue angry at what just transpired with Jesus and the blind man, and I come to rat him out. And so my very first take, I came storming into that synagogue all but yelling. And Dallas let me get through the scene, but he pulled me aside and said, Steve, I don't want a screaming, foaming at the mouth Pharisee. The reason we bring you back is because you're so subtle. Give me more of that. You got it.
Yeah.
So I guess he didn't like my villain either, Lowell.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Phil?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also that was, I'll explain more later, but that day, so Steve and I shot that scene, and then after that scene, the blind man scene in the synagogue, and then my monologue scene, those were on the same day. They were Monday, the day after Easter. Like I feel like it was April 10th, and our call time was like at 5:30 in the morning. And so that was a whirlwind of a day. And so I'll get back to that, but I want to talk to Nene, and I want to start with you. Thank you, Law. I want to start with Nene with a specific question.
Okay.
Nene, you like Steve are what I consider a legacy cast member.
Okay.
You were there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You were there from season 1.
Yeah.
I think I
Episode
know I'm
one,
curious, and
too.
I have
Sorry,
no doubt
Steve.
that the community is curious about how you found your way to The Chosen, but I also want to hear you reflect on, I mean, when you get an audition for, when all of us get an audition for a project, there's like, you get that EcoCast email,
Yeah. Mhm.
and then you click through and you're like, okay, I hope this is something good. And you can typically tell the credibility of the audition
Yeah.
because you see the casting director and then you see what it is.
Yeah.
So if it's like a network show right away, you're like, okay, this is great. Because every time we audition, we have a big investment.
Yeah.
But when you don't know what something is,
Yeah.
or if it's like SAG low budget, you're like, oh man, it's like I'm gonna pay 150 bucks to sit on an apple crate for 12 hours, you know? And so I know that that's not exactly what The Chosen was when you got there, but it was this crowd-funded thing that maybe might happen, maybe might not happen. What
Yeah.
is this thing?
Yeah.
And you started and you came in as Rivka. And look, Quintus thinks he runs the town. We all know Rivka has got the lockdown on Capernaum. She runs the show. And you came in at the very beginning and you've watched this thing grow into what is very likely the biggest show on the planet. I mean,
Yeah.
Jonathan just posted something where I don't know what it was, the company that keeps track of streaming ratings,
Okay.
that over for the episode 1 of season 4, the 2-day viewership exceeded last year's highest viewership, which was
Wow.
the HBO zombie show This Is Us, or
Oh,
what was it?
Walking Dead?
Not Walking
This is
Dead.
The Last of Us?
The
No,
Last of Us.
The Last of
Or
Us.
Last
The
of
Yeah.
Last of Us had like the highest viewership at like 3.2, and we exceeded like 4.6 in 2 days,
Wow.
4.6 unique views. And so you started with something small and now it's a monster. So how did you make your way to The Chosen, and what are your thoughts on all you watched transpire?
Okay. Well, so this is funny. This is how you just never know where life is going to take you. 3 or 4 years prior to The Chosen, um, the Texas casting directors had a workshop in Dallas. Oh God, Brock and Allen is their names, and it was like a 4-day workshop in Dallas. They bring in different teachers or speakers, if you will. There was a casting director, there was a stunt guy, there was two casting directors actually, a producer. And for the most part, we had to perform for all of them. And the producer on one of the days was none other than Chad Gunderson, who's the producer, one of the producers on The Chosen. So, but I asked so many questions because there were 3 of us girls who are, I'm from Nigeria, and who plays, oh God, what's her name? The blind Ushula. Is one of my best friends, and another girl, Mila. So Anne is German, Mila is Russian, and then me. So I kept saying, I'll ask a question and say, for us international section here, can you tell? So at the end of it, you know how us actors, we second guess everything. I left there, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I just really blew this one. I asked too many questions. I probably upset him. He probably doesn't like me now. I don't know when I'm going to see him again, but man, I really, really messed this up. And every time I saw him, I was like, oh God, this guy, I know he hates me, but I need to go say hi. And he would always be nice. And then 3 or 4 years later, I get an audition from my agent, and it was a self-tape. And I was like, okay, it's due on Monday. I'll get it done and sent on Sunday. And then I get a text from my agent saying, actually, they want to see you in person. I was like, oh, okay. I'm glad I haven't recorded it yet. So I drove down to Austin, and I get there. I do the audition. They loved it. I did both 2 takes. They loved it. And then when they turned off the camera, um, Tony Brock said to me, she talks with this really deep voice. So it's like, Nene, um, I think we want to let you know that you made a good impression on a really powerful producer. I'm like, huh? what is she talking about? Said, do you know Chad Gunderson? I was like, of course I know Chad Gunderson. And they proceed to tell me that I was, he told them at the very beginning of the casting that they should bring me in to audition
Oh,
for a
that's
role. He didn't
awesome.
tell them what role. The same thing, he did the same with Anne, who also plays Shula, and told them to bring us in, and we auditioned, and we both booked it the same day. So of course, when I got to set, I was looking for him too. I'm like, surely they over exaggerated this story they just told me. And I saw him on set the first day, and he was like, Nene, you and Anne were my special request for this. I was like,
That's awesome.
are you talking about me? Are you talking to me right now? So that's how I got on the show. And sorry, Steve, I'm in episode 1 and episode 8.
I just remembered 8. Sorry.
Yes. But I had no idea what the show was about. Like, no clue. I didn't even know they were auditioning until the week before I got this audition. And I was like, okay, it was just a job that I got. It was fun. I got to work with Eric Avari. I was like, that's his name, right? Did I say that right? Yes, Eric Avari.
Nicodemus.
Nicodemus, yes. I was that in itself was just like, my demo reel is gonna be awesome. I still had no idea where this was gonna go. And at that time, the first 4 episodes were the only episodes funded. So we didn't know if there'll be any other. And I was so used to just coming in on a show for 1 episode and going away. But then after a while, they said, okay, we're funded for the remaining 4 episodes, and checked for my availability. I was like, I'm coming back and I have lines. So I was just so happy. And then when the show came out, I was mind blown. Like, I think one of my favorites is after when Simon, when Jesus told them to put back the nest, and Simon looked at him and like, I told you. And then all of a sudden that happened, and you see the guys running in slow motion. I was just bawling my eyes out. I loved that scene so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, I was like, oh, that was great. Okay, I wonder if I'll be back again. And then I was supposed to be in episode 2, in season 2. I had just come back from my dad's funeral in Nigeria, and I was supposed to shoot 2 days later, but I got COVID. I mean, they called to say, sorry, we're gonna cut your scene, but I was at the doctor's office getting tested for COVID, and I was sick. There was no way I would have been able to make it, even if they didn't cut my scene. So
I almost lost out from COVID too. It was a touch and go. They were testing me up to the last minute of getting up on the plane kind of thing. It was crazy.
yeah. So, but yeah, so that's how. And then when I thought, okay, sure, Rivka is done because I didn't come back in season 3. And then I get a call saying, email checking for my availability for The Chosen for season 4. I was like, what date? I'm available. Thank you very much. And I was so excited, so excited. And of course, I was like, COVID don't mess me up again. COVID don't mess me up again.
Yeah.
And that was it. Yeah.
Wow. And so Nene, now to watch it, I mean, you and Steve, to have seen it from what it was then to what it is now.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on all this?
It's amazing. Before I came back for season 4, I went back and rewatched the whole thing from episode 1 all the way, and I was just like, how? It's such a brilliant idea, the way the show is made, the way, like, I never wondered what happened behind the scenes of Jesus's life, except for what's in the Bible. And it never even occurred to me to ask those kinds of questions. And seeing it made sense. It made so much sense. These are human beings. They are not just ghosts, it made so much sense. And people love it. Like, even before I came back in season 4, people recognized me from The Chosen.
Uh-huh.
Like just my voice. I'll tell you this real quick and then I'll keep quiet. A couple of weeks before we shot season 4, my husband was in the hospital. He had surgery and there was some complications and he ended up in ICU. So I'll go there every day. And one of the days, a day nurse came into the room after I just gone. She was like, "Can I ask you a question?" And I'm thinking, me or the patient? She was like, "No, you." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." Said, "Were you in The Chosen?" I was like, "What?" She said the night nurses were talking about it. That his wife is in The Chosen. She plays, and now that I can hear your voice, I agree. It was you.
Which means he
So
was going to be okay. He was going to be.
I know, right? Exactly. So it's just the way people react to it is so, so, so awesome. And I can see why.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Lowell, what about like when did The Chosen get on your map? Was it with the audition or had you been tracking it? How did you sort of find it aside from auditioning for it?
I had started it. I just noticed it, and I'd through season 2, and then I sort of started from the beginning, and that's honestly like it kind of tailed up right with that was just that the audition came in, so it was maybe a month or two before,
Yeah.
Wow.
and it was yeah, I just couldn't stop watching it, of course. But like I said, I just love that the pilot episode where Jesus comes in late. He's kind of a cameo, so there's
Mhm.
this suspense to it.
Yeah, that was
Um,
smart writing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. It's great, right? It's a great way to introduce, Jesus,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
iconic role. So
Well,
yeah,
and coming into watching that first episode, I mean, I think like a lot of folks' story, I was tepid about stepping into watching a Christian TV show. Um, and then all of a sudden you're tracking an arc from
Yeah.
Mary. There's an actual character arc from Mary that begins when she's a girl and then
Yeah.
ends with Jesus. You're watching Nicodemus
Yeah.
and the other fair Nicodemus is having like a midlife crisis
Yeah.
and you're tracking him trying to find meaning in his life.
Yeah.
You're tracking this young man who's left his family for money and clearly like has deep emotional struggles and issues and doesn't feel apart from a part of his community and feels like an outcast and in a way has chosen that. You're tracking these other dudes who are just trying to get by fishing, but it's not working and they owe taxes. Like
Yeah.
you are, I'm like, what am I watching here? Like this, I know I know that character's name and that character's name and that character's name from scripture, but I don't like how's this like how's all that and then it comes together a little like you said at the end when Jesus shows up and brings it all together and heals Mary and then it's just like you're like huh! It's like a gut punch like I immediately like I get this now like I totally
Yeah.
I'm all in 100%.
I think
um
what real like
I don't know. I don't know if you, sorry. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. I need to talk over it. I was gonna say, I don't know if you guys read the recent article, interview that was it Hollywood Reporter interviewed Dallas?
yeah
It's so good. It's so
yeah
good because he talks about how he goes to, I'm gonna paraphrase here, how Jesus doesn't make it's his story has been done, but all these other people, right? The disciples is like they're the main characters here while still bringing in Jesus and every. It was just when I read, I was like, that was smart. The interview
yeah
it was really yeah.
I think,
Um,
and Nene, that scene you were talking about too. I mean, for myself, I'll just say, right around that time or right prior to that time, when I discovered the show, I was having some of those Simon moments,
hmm,
where just with my own career, we all know how tough it was when the industry shut down and
yeah,
how slow things got and how quiet things became. And I, there's been some really fun things that have been happening since the appearance of this show in my life. I'll tell you guys that right after we shot our scene, which we will not discuss
Yes.
today, but right after we shot that, uh, my, in this sermon, a Sunday church service, just a few days later, after I got back from Texas, they talked about that scene in detail.
Wow,
Oh.
that's pretty cool.
And it was like, oh, yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was.
They should have called
I
you
would
up and
watch
let
it
you
every
give the
day.
lesson.
Yeah. But yeah, just I think, Nene, you have the scene you mentioned with Shahar and Simon, and just how he's just so angry, and he's frustrated with his net, and he's cursing up, and just it's just so wonderful. And that's something where you're focused on what just people are going through in their lives, and what Jesus did for them when he came in on the scene, as he sort of comes and shows up and has his kind of cameo appearance, which is wonderful. Yeah.
And can we just talk about Jonathan for a second? There's something about him and Liz. There's something about their, is it aura you would call it, that is so perfect for the roles they were cast in. Like, I remember the first time I met Jonathan, it was in the makeup trailer. And I walk in, this was for episode 8. That was the first time I met him. I walk into the trailer to get my fake scar put on, and he was wearing what he normally wears, and it was a night shoot, and it was outdoors, so they were spraying bug spray for him. So the makeup lady kind of held up the back of his, I don't know what it's called, so please don't kill me, but let's just say it looks like a dress, and she's spraying his legs, and I walk in and I want to say, "Are you doing this?" And I was like, "Oh wait, no, I'm on set. He's an actor." And then of course I proceed to say, "Oh wow, I don't know whether to hug you, bow down, say hello. What do I do?" And he was like, "Oh, come here, give me a hug." I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't know. You look so much like what I see." It was just, for the two of them, it's just something about them that is like, you just, yeah, I love the casting so much. I love all the casts, but just seeing them being the two main that you've heard about so much, and it's like they fit. This is perfect casting.
Yeah.
There's a really nice moment. I just wanted to say there's a really nice moment in Jonathan and Jesus too, when he's because as he mentions, he's taking care of the apartment building as manager, right? And he's sweeping outside, and you just see it. That's just it. That's our carpenter right there. Like, that's just a very patient man, just taking care of his environment. It's really wonderful. Yeah.
And brief moment to shout out Jonathan and Jesus. If anyone watching has not seen Jonathan and Jesus, it is incredible. 4-part docuseries on Amazon Prime. You should watch it ASAP.
Won an award at the K-Lab Film Awards, or didn't it?
Oh yeah, I saw the pictures.
Yeah. But it's legit. It tracks sort of Jonathan's experience playing Jesus, but then it also tracks who Jesus is and has a conversation about it. And I just was blown away that documentary existed on Amazon Prime. It's so good. And just a brief comment on Jonathan. So my speculation is that in Jonathan's personal life, he must have we all have our different strengths and talents.
Yeah.
And our natural and unique God-given talents. And Jonathan must have a tremendous sense of empathy.
Yeah.
Because when he heals someone, there's no lying in his eyes.
Yeah.
What sells those moments, as much as the response from the person that got healed, is his eyes when he's looking at them.
That's right.
And there's so much foundation prior to a healing or a miracle or a moment leading up to that moment. There's so much foundation that the stakes are there when the healing happens or the miracle happens, but it really is Jonathan's eyes and the way he looks at that person that just breaks your heart or fills you with joy. And I really do, I'm like, whatever he has, I don't have that.
Yeah.
I want some of that. I care for people, like I'm really nice. I care for,
Yeah.
but I don't have
But
whatever
yes.
that is. I want some of that. Just 10%. 10%.
Yep. Yep. I agree completely. His eyes, definitely. He's so empathetic, and he has so much dialogue. He says not even dialogue, is monologue. He has so
Yeah.
much to remember, and to still be able to put it all together and still show the empathy, like you said, is just
Hey, Phil, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So we talk about the kindness of Jesus, but your character doesn't know much about that. So when you are interacting with Jesus, is there a check in your spirit that you feel a little bad as Phil that you're having a fight with Jesus? Or is it just all
Yeah.
thing and it's fine?
Yeah, it's a great question, Steve, for putting me on the spot like that. So the first time I met Jonathan was just before we started shooting the big crowd scene in season 3, episode 6. We actually shot episode 6 first for season 3, then episode 5 with all the stuff at Jairus's house. And so I did not see him face to face until we actually got to set, surrounded by hundreds of people, where he's about to talk to John the Baptist's disciples, and I'm over here on the side, about to engage him. And we sort of both looked at each other, and then we both sort of went after. And you know what I mean? I think you guys understand. And for the audience watching, what that meant was, we'll say hi officially after we're done doing this, to keep that distance between each other before we get started, right? So so that was my first interaction. And then as soon as the scene was done, it was like a big hug, and then we were off from there. But Steve, like, to answer your question, so in order to do that, like in order to, like, we're going to speak openly about episode 3 here of season 4. And in order to engage with Jonathan in that way, playing Jesus, a script that is really reflecting scripture in a very meaningful way. I to argue, to yell at Jonathan doesn't work. I don't have a reason to do it. To yell at Jesus, it also doesn't work. I don't have a reason to do that either. And so preparing for that moment, for that sequence, begins with the script and being able to understand what Dallas, Ryan, and Chris are wanting out of that script, and then to try and understand the source material as best as possible in an effort to understand the thesis of this sequence. And that thesis is when Jesus says, "You strain out a gnat," and when he tells us, "You guys
My
are straining out
favorite
a gnat while you
line.
swallow a camel."
That's my favorite line.
Yeah, he's telling us you were distracted by the wrong things. You're distracted by stuff that just doesn't matter. And then he says what does matter is justice, mercy, and faithfulness. And so, and that is a clear, like, for me, especially when it comes to scripture, like, it all points to that moment right there where Jesus has been living this out throughout his ministry, and then is going to live it out when he dies on the cross. He is there surrounded by people who deserve justice. He's surrounded by the most vulnerable. Rivka and Jed represent part of that most vulnerable, the outcasts, the poor, the needy, the orphans, the widows, the immigrants, or the aliens. He's surrounded by them. He's surrounded by the dredges of society, while Steve, you and I are there as the representatives with this massive, strong, huge temple behind us representing the institution, right? And so I have to understand why I don't understand what he's saying. And the reason is because for me, justice isn't about protecting the vulnerable. Justice has to be about punishing wrongdoers. That's what it has to be about. And that's a part of justice, but it's not the biggest part that God cares about. You look at the Old Testament, you look at Torah, he gets most mad at his people when they take advantage of the most vulnerable around them. When they worship other gods, and then they take advantage of the most vulnerable around them. And then beyond that, Jesus is showing what it looks like to live righteously, to live in a right relationship with the people around you that's based on fairness and that's based on generosity and righting the wrongs that you see in front of you. That's real biblical righteousness. Jesus has been living that throughout the show. He lives that through scripture. And for Akiva, righteousness is just focusing on his own personal holiness, making sure that I follow all 613 laws, that I am so dedicated to these laws that I add to them in an effort to show my loyalty and my commitment to my God. And if he was the Messiah, he wouldn't treat me like this. He wouldn't treat you and I like this. If he was the Messiah, because we follow the law so detailed and specifically, he would do the same. He would not be surrounded by those people. He would be surrounded by us. He would want us around him. And so having an understanding of the arc of the substance of the scene is very, very important. And for Akiva, it's not a stretch to be able to put yourself in that headspace, because you guys, like, being honest, that's where a lot of us are today, where we just we latch onto our tribes, and whatever our tribe says, we just go with it, and we've lost compassion and grace for the people around us oftentimes. We're not looking at how to right the wrongs in our community. We're looking to make sure our enemies know what they're doing wrong oftentimes. And yet Jesus says, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, right? That's the Jesus he brings into that scene. And so the additional thing, in addition to understanding that scene, and I'll end with this, is that what I have to do is I have to replace Jesus. I have to replace Jonathan with something different. I have to replace them with something that does hurt, with something where I do feel wronged, something that does cause pain in my life, and prepare with that in mind for the 2 or 3 weeks. I think I got my scripts like 3 weeks in advance. And so I had to find that thing in my life very early on, and then hold on to it until that scene was over. So that when I was talking to Jesus in that scene, I'm talking through the lens of that pain in my life and putting another source in the place of Jesus. Is that all?
Can I just say the tension in your face in that scene is like, who are we talking to today? This is just not the same. It was such a powerful scene. The emotion you feel, the emotion you were just putting out there, you could tell this guy, oh my God, you were not happy that this man was here. It made it so fun for me to interact with you in that scene. I was like, whoa, how dare you talk to my, So, but it was it was powerful. It was really powerful watching you perform.
Well,
the moment where you clock everyone after one of your speeches, and you look up and around.
Yes.
And that's something for me too, being in the middle of a crowd.
Yeah.
All this chaos is going on, and I turn around and I see Romans on horseback. It's just like, you realize how powerful this moment is. But when you're looking up, and you clock everyone, on the second story and down below, and then you just sort of do that full sweep. It was such a great look in your eyes, and you could see that this man is dangerous, as you say.
Yeah, thanks, Lowell. Yeah.
Bill, the first time I remember meeting you, we were on set, and I don't even know if we said hi before you entered the scene. I don't even know if I saw your face before you entered the scene. I'm not sure, but I know that when your character stepped onto set and we were performing together, that part of my mind that wasn't engaged in sharing the scene was, man, what a crouchy, cranky actor they got for this role.
Man,
and then
that mustache.
We did our work, and then we got off set and we connected. He was, what a nice guy. What a great actor.
Yeah, I mean, that was, we started so early that morning that our first scene together was the synagogue with the blind man in the synagogue, and then his parents show up, and we started so early in the morning, and things just got off. We just started acting. We just started going take after take, and didn't have a chance to really get to know each other until afterwards, until we finished.
Oh yeah,
Um,
can we talk about the oh gosh, I forgot his name, the guy who plays the
oh,
blind guy.
Ryan, I'm forgetting his
Ryan.
last.
Yes, he was amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Now, let me
my
tell you something that
God.
happened during the scene with Ryan. If you remember, I'm just standing off watching everything that's going on. And we did take after take after take. But at one point, Ryan, his eyes kind of flutter and he falls forward.
Oh,
And I almost sprinted over to catch him. I thought he was passing out. And he was just falling into Jesus for that embrace.
oh my, he was so good.
I, I almost ruined that scene.
Yeah.
I almost ran to help him.
I got to tell you guys quickly too. He and I were speaking at lunch after one of our shoot days. I think after he just wrapped, and he and I had the exact same thing happen. So we both auditioned for Gyrus self-tape
Wow.
and did not hear anything. He did not hear anything. I think he had a longer period, and then Dallas just reached out to him and gave him that role, and he just showed up. I don't think he. Same with me. It's the first time I read the scene with the man, and like with him, it's just I
Wow.
think that's what's so amazing about Dallas and
Yeah.
obviously the casting as well is just such a great eye
Yeah.
um, and trust too
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
these actors can do that and pull it off. But he just is, he was so wonderful in that scene. He was so
He was, I don't even, because we were there, we shot for 5 days. It almost feels unjust that the audience didn't get to see what we saw because obviously they showed
yeah.
time, they had to cut and everything. But when we were done, I was like, can I do what this guy just did today? He was brilliant.
Take
Yeah.
after take. I think
Take
that's
after take for hours. I was like,
and that goes for Smiling Pharisees. You take after take out with you guys as well, just
yeah,
with everybody, with all the work that was going on in that scene. Take
Yeah.
after take after
yeah.
take. You wish there would just be a documentary of the filming.
I hope maybe you know what? Maybe there will be. I don't know, but it was
There's
just
enough cameras around. Hopefully, maybe
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Wow.
that's
it
something.
was just amazing to watch the whole. Okay, can we talk about Dallas and his sense of humor? It's probably one of my favorite things about him. He is, I don't even know, and it's like right on the moment he just has a comeback. So I'll tell you what one of my favorite moments on set for season 4. There's at the beginning of the take where the blind guy Rivka comes and what's his name says, Rivka, look, and I come in and so the very first take, I thought Dallas said, go get close to the blind guy. And so I got close and the guy is just looking at me. So I instinctively, I touched his hand. I was like, oh, what happened? And I'm saying my lines. And then afterwards, I said, cut. And Dallas comes to me and say, okay, Nene, I don't want you to touch him because back then, I don't think women would touch men like that. I mean, I understand Rivka has a problem, but no, it was just like on the moment, I laughed so hard. And for people watching this, if you don't understand, Rivka used to run a brothel. So
Yeah.
for her to go touch a guy and they're like, I understand she has a problem, but
Yeah.
so
Uh,
I was like, I don't know how he comes up with it just on the moment like that, so quick. I thought it was hilarious.
Shout in that scene too. Shout out to quick shout to all the extras being in the
Yes.
middle of that pile. Iola out there.
yeah.
Hey, brother.
Viola, yes.
He and I were just in different spots each time, but shout out to the extras. I gotta say, I feel like it was their care, the fact that they, you know, they're wonderful people. They all love the show, and that I didn't get trampled. Honestly, I just there's so many people, and that crowd just moving back and forth with such velocity that I just it's starting to get scary. But I think it was just the fact that after each and every take, they kept at, "Are you okay? Everyone okay? Are we all good?" And same with the crew too. But
Yeah,
There was
everybody
there
was
was a
amazing.
lady. Oh, sorry. There was a lady that I actually went up to and say, I don't know what you're doing, but she was just amazing. Like she felt like she was living all she was doing was carrying her basket and walking back. But the intensity with which she was going, you could tell she was on a mission to get to the market or wherever it was.
Yeah.
I was like, you're so good. And
Yeah.
she was like, oh, thank you. But they really were so good. And then there was one of the ladies, I don't want to say her name because like I said, my husband prior to that was at the hospital. He was fine then. But she came to me and she was like, I heard your husband was sick and we prayed for you. And I was like, oh, thank you.
The chosen background is like no other.
Yeah.
It is populated by fans of The Chosen.
Yeah.
In many ways, people who have helped to finance this production since day one.
Yeah.
And so they are there with a purpose and a mission. And I think all of us have probably in a small way have gotten to start interacting with some fans and many who do background work on The Chosen, and they help to bring to life the whole of every one of these scenes, and they do it with a passion and precision that legit fans need have.
I have a legit regret that when we finished filming and some of the actors were going out and then Jonathan met with everybody and talked, we were talking about whether we should go out. I wish we had gone out, not for the applause because they were applauding everybody. So that's why we stayed out. We didn't want to, but I just wanted to mingle and tell them how awesome they were. And because we worked together all day, but you can't talk with them. I mean, a little this, that.
Somebody told them not to. Someone said, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to bug you, but I was like, why you should whisper? It's like, we're not supposed to talk to you guys. I was like,
yeah, which is good. You got 200 people there. If they're all trying to talk to you while you're trying to be in character, it's impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
But afterwards, I wanted to spend time with them and tell them how much I appreciated them. And
and I appreciate. I agree with your sentiment, Steve. I wonder if after that scene, had we gone out at that point, we would have just been booed. Maybe after this. After we've spent some time smiling and being ourselves, maybe the next time, God willing, if there is one, things might be a little bit different.
I have a question for our Pharisees here quickly. Yeah, just since we're talking about that scene, I loved being on the backside and looking at Jesus, and he could not see your entrance, but I could every single time. What was that like for you guys, since you weren't just already there? It's film, you could do this. You could just be planted there already, but you didn't. You actually came down the steps. What was that like for you guys, take after take? When you
It was like this. Is this the time I fall down the stairs? Every time, Lowell.
They're too long. And I've got to hold my thing up like a dress, like walking down.
Yep.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, that adds to the suspense, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I did get to a point where I realized I can hike it up and hold it and still look legit. And I started doing that. Because I did trip on the stairs going up and down a couple of times.
Oh man. Oh, that's scary.
And at the end of that scene, when the Romans take us out on the initial rehearsals, they got pretty dangerous because they're taking us up super fast. We're tripping over our robes. And I had to figure out a way to pull up my robe while he's pulling me out, because on one of the first takes, he pulls me up so fast, I trip on my robe and fall, and he steps right on my hand. My hand was so flat on the ground that nothing happened. Like I was fine.
Wow.
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah, it was scary. Yeah, but it's a great question, Lowell. Like Steve, when you emerge from the corner and see this is not just Jesus and a handful of disciples. This is everybody in the show, plus 200 people and horses looking right back at us. What was your initial response?
You're talking about with the blind man, or for you and I coming out of the synagogue?
When you and I came down, yeah.
Well, in addition to not trying to trip, I wanted to come down the stairs with an air of superiority and arrogance. I had already seen all those people out there for the blind man, so I wasn't surprised that they were there.
Yeah, because you came out a little bit earlier first, right?
Yeah, I came out to watch that whole miracle sequence, and I grab him and I drag him up the stairs to the synagogue.
Maybe that's a good place to start, because so Nene,
Yeah.
and Lowell and Steve, you were all present to watch the blind man get healed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, I came in after he'd been healed.
Okay.
Yeah, as in in the scene, of course, while they were shooting the healing scene, I was in the corner watching. But in the scene, my character comes in after he'd been healed.
Yeah. Okay.
I
And then
come
Lowell,
in sort of during while it's going on, and then I go get my family,
Mhm.
and then bring my family back.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And then of course, Steve, you were there. What are some of your reflections on just that scene? I mean, clearly Ryan's performance was wonderful, but
Mm.
like you got to be there to watch the mud on the face, the whole thing. This is a very, very famous story from scripture that you got to watch realized in a way that's canon now.
But like you, I couldn't be Steve Shermet enjoying the moment. I had to be this Pharisee who's being triggered by this event that he's done this in front of all these people on the Sabbath. This ain't right. And this was the moment that my character, who had met Jesus before, but this was the moment where my character had made a decision about Jesus. And so a lot of the people on the fan page and stuff are like calling it the side eye when I give Jesus this look, which you know, it's apparent how I feel about him at that moment. But here's a funny little thing. The first several takes, I was just looking at Ryan, and then I said my lines to Ryan, and I ushered him up the stairs. And I was thinking in my head, I got to interact with Jesus. I just don't know how or what to do. And then after maybe the third or fourth take, Dallas yells out, "Steve, you can look at Jesus. It's okay."
I mean, I imagine as a Pharisee, that's where your attention would be. Like, what's this guy doing? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
But it all worked out.
Yeah.
I think there was something so special too about just the fact that it's dirt. It's this wet mud dirt that's being put over his eye. That was just um so kind of surreal just watching it, and um just witnessing that moment. And as you guys know, I mean, I come from the theater, right? So like a great set with any play, it puts you in the mindset. It puts you in that place you need to be. This set there is just, especially out in front of the synagogue, it's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it just it just launches you right in the headspace you need to be in. And with the fire, I don't know what they're burning, but that smell in the air,
So
No.
being
Yeah.
so gross.
those cauldrons, it's just, I'm like, oh, I'm here. This is it. I'm actually here witnessing this event, yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching the practical effect with that clay mixture water, putting it
Yeah.
on his eyes, washing with the contact lenses coming out and going in. I enjoyed experiencing that whole thing.
Yeah, me too. And then I felt bad for Ryan because when he puts water in his eyes, he doesn't normally on a normal day you wash everything off before you open your eyes. But for him, he just cleans it a little bit, and I'm like, how much sand got in his poor eyes?
Yeah.
But he did that over and over. At the end of it, I was like, "How's your eye? Are you
Oh,
okay?" Because oh my gosh, it was so intense. But I'm so grateful, so glad that I was part of that scene with you guys because I feel like it's the biggest scene, well, at least up until episode 3,
yeah.
and it was magnificent to watch, to be there.
Yeah.
It was
Now,
it was a joy.
sorry, Steve, go ahead.
It was a joy to be part of that scene. I'm
Yeah.
so thankful to have been part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let Lola and Nene.
Yeah.
So I want to ask the two of you a specific question.
Mhm.
So oftentimes, so each of you have a couple lines in the midst of this very, very big
Mhm.
scene,
Yeah.
right? In the midst of a lot of dialogue. Now, there's been times where I've been on a set and I've had the one line or the two lines that have to come in the middle of this big set piece. And what I've discovered, not I'm curious if you relate in any way and maybe relate to this scene in as much as those kinds of moments of acting have oftentimes made me more nervous than
Yeah.
more open dialogue
Yeah.
because you have like there's a number of things that like you have like, there's a sense of timing and precision because you're not in open dialogue with another actor.
Yeah.
There is getting lost in the scene and being like, wait, was I supposed to say my line? All of a
Yeah.
sudden, you know it's coming, but wait, what line? What's
Yeah.
the key? Like for folks watching, like doing that
Yeah.
is very difficult
Yeah.
oftentimes.
Hmm.
And you
It
both
is. Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
yeah, you both had, and Steve to an extent, you both had to do this.
Yeah.
What was your experience with this? Was it nerve-wracking in any way, or did you feel like you were right there in the flow?
Nanny.
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, well, no. For me, like I said earlier, I went back and watched the first 3 seasons, but being that I wasn't in season 2 or 3, I had to think about what for Rivka to talk to Nicodemus the way she did in that very first episode. She's seen life. She has seen a lot of life. Like she has a scar. How did she get it? So I had to kind of figure out, like, yeah, for a woman during that time to run a brothel, she's got some kind of like, what are you gonna do? Kill me? What else? She must have that kind of backbone where she's like, well, I have to survive.
Yeah.
So I'll stand up to any authority that comes my way. So then I now thought, finally, everyone's treated her like crap all her life. And then here comes Jesus and he's being kind to her, to people like her. And then here comes who to insult him? Like, how dare you, kind of thing. Because now I felt protective of the one person who's treated us with respect and love. So that helped a lot for me to do that scene. Now, in the very first episodes of season 1, I had no idea who Rivka was. I had no idea. So all I was like, okay, I'm talking to Nicodemus. Okay. I didn't have as much information to back her up as I did in season 4. So it was easier for me in season 4 than it was for me in episode 1 and episode 8 of season 1.
Yeah. So really quickly, I think I talked to a couple of you guys about this, but I actually didn't know coming back if I was going to coming back as the same character, the same guy. Jed was originally given a different name. So I actually didn't know who this was kind of coming on the scene. And so I wasn't able to talk to Dallas about it until I actually showed up on set that day, because I was actually in a different costume than season 3. And I just said, thank you, so glad to be back. And I actually remember him saying, well, I just needed someone reliable for this scene we're about to shoot. But I knew from that moment, that was like, wonderful, thank you for saying that. But besides that, what I knew from that was he needed someone to give him that take after take consistency, and give to the scene, right? So that was not, Phil, you and I talked about this, that especially in season 3, our role in it is not necessarily to look at, okay, how can I make this, a lot of actors, how can we make this sort of bigger for ourselves?
Right.
It's about making it, giving to others, giving to the scene.
Right.
And that was my job in that scene, to give to you guys. And I think, and to the main action that was happening. And Phil, as we talked about too, how, you gave that right back.
Yeah.
You guys know, I'll tell you this, that he'd actually told me that he was going to give me a little bit something extra on my coverage when they came in tight on me. And so if any of you guys know anything about Mediterranean culture, when you do this, you're saying something. And I remember Phil on my coverage, and then when you're doing the lines with you, the interchange, you did a little bit of this uneducated class. Oh, you went there, you did it. But it's that, right? It's not making it about yourself. It's making it about the main action, about the scene. It's giving, as opposed to thinking, okay, now it's my light. Now it's my close up. How can I make this bigger for me? And yeah.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, I was gonna say for me too, is like there was one line that even though that was the only line I had in that moment, I kept stumbling on it. His words bring
His
hope
words
and
bring
healing.
hope and healing.
And I kept saying his words bring healing, and I like
Nene,
oh my gosh.
Nene, I
Yeah.
remember you stumbling and I saw you get flustered and I prayed for you because I knew you must have been
Oh.
under so much pressure at that moment.
Yes. I kept stumbling like his words bring
No.
hope and healing. His words bring healing.
When it came out right, it was beautiful.
I was so relieved.
It was so great.
I was so relieved. Oh my
So
gosh.
for folks watching, like when Lowell says coverage, that means that the camera is on his face for his line in a close-up.
Yeah.
And it's not customary in TV shows to actually have the regulars or even sometimes the other actors behind the camera to give them their lines. Oftentimes, like on another show, if the coverage is going to be on me and I'm a guest on that show, and the regular actor is supposed to be giving me the lines, sometimes they'll just replace it with an AD or something like that, and you're not actually interacting with that person. On The Chosen, not just in our moment, Lowell, but in every moment of coverage, the regular still stays there and gives you their dialogue and performs with you, which is a huge, huge help. But that also gives us an opportunity to, like you said, Lowell, give to the other actors something we may not be able to give when the camera's on us. And that means we can sort of help to relish in the dialogue in order to try and help the actor getting the coverage pull as much out of that moment as possible, which does make it fun for the person who doesn't have the camera on them. And so I can have fun with you in that moment. Another moment like this was if you watched episode 1 of season 4, when I first read the episode 1 script, one of the first lines I have, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe these words are going to come out of my mouth. The words are to Amber's character. I'm forgetting.
Tamar.
The words are to Tamar when they're coming in to sell the oil, and I have to tell her the woman will wait outside.
Oh yes.
I was like, you really gonna do me like that? I really have to say those lines.
I lost the audio. Could you say that? Honestly, could you say it?
I had to tell Tamar the woman will wait outside when they're coming in to sell the oil. And so I got to do the same thing with her on her coverage, is just sort of lean on the railing of the synagogue and just look deep in her eyes and say, hey, the woman's gonna wait outside today, lady. Now I have another, coming back to our scene, I have another question I want to ask all of you that I've been thinking about recently. So in season 3, episode 3, when Jesus goes back to Nazareth, and he's in the small Nazareth synagogue, and he starts to spar with the older Pharisee. That's when he has the moment where he says, I am the law of Moses. And that moment became like the chosen moment, right? People love that moment, like the takedown from Jesus. Did any of you realize that in the middle of our scene, we were witnessing another one of those moments that would take over The Chosen when Jesus said, I'm just getting started? Did you know in real time that, okay, I'm watching something that's going to be huge?
For me, it felt like it, because like I said, my favorite was straining it. The line was straining in that, it just felt like he's not holding back anymore. And even though you came in and you're yelling, not yelling, but you're angry at him and everything, it's still, he held his own. There was like a moment in there where it just felt like he's got us, the rest of us, not you two. It really felt powerful in real time for me watching, especially when it came to the two of you, Philip and Jesus, the back and forth. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it was, for me, it felt powerful in the moment.
Yeah.
I knew the scene was going to be huge, but no, not that specific line. I'm just getting started. In my mind, it was like, okay, well, let's hear the rest then. Why is the scene ending?
I think it was such just a well-written scene, with, honestly, you guys, great performances back and forth. And it just became Shakespeare, because your delivery, just seeing the perfect build of the scene between Akiva and Jesus. And just this build of emotion. And again, Phil, I think one of your powerful moments that I got to see take after take after take was just looking at him, taking a moment to look up. All of you, this man is, just all of that. It was wonderful. So I think it was that perfect combination.
Philip, your face was
Cranky Pharisee.
Oh my God.
Cranky Pants Pharisee. Yeah.
It was just it was beautiful to watch in real time. It really was.
Great writing, but it takes a great performance, really special performance. And so you guys
are very kind. I to be honest with you, I'm with Steve. I completely missed it. Like, I didn't, in the moment, it's just like, you're just getting started. Hey, punk, I'm just getting started. Like, it's one of those things. Like, but then when the sneak peek came out and they ended on that line, I was like, oh man, we just got hammered. Like, that's gonna be on a t-shirt. That is gonna be on a t-shirt. Straight up, it's on a t-shirt. I didn't see it in the moment.
Probably because you guys were in the moment talking. That's why you missed it. But for us, we were, for the most part, observing you guys do your thing, both of you and Jesus. So it was more, we were more like the fly on the wall, if you will.
Not only were you the flies on the wall, but you were on Jesus's side. You watched it from a totally different perspective. We saw a different show altogether.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, are you going to get that t-shirt, Phil?
I probably should just accept it and just own it and wear it. Yeah.
Probably. I was thinking about doing the same.
I think just a t-shirt of your reaction to him saying that line.
You know what, man? I think, part of the theme of what we're talking about, one of the themes I think is, I hope people can see that, like, what an appreciation we all have to be part of this particular show.
Oh yeah.
It is, one of the things I've told folks is that the spirit of the show, when you watch it, is present on the set. Would you all agree?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. The spirit of the show is present on the set. And, anytime, all of you, I'm sure will agree that anytime you're able to like, booking any job is hard. Like, booking any credible job is it's a climb up a mountain. Like, every single time you have to, you book something, you do it, and then all of a sudden you've got that empty space. You're like, oh, I gotta reset. I gotta start again. And booking any job is special, but having booked this job is so much more than even that. And so, I don't know. Do any of you have any more reflections that
I was just gonna say, from what you're saying now, that I think a lot more great things have happened in my career because of The Chosen. Like, after I booked The Chosen, things just started falling in line for me. Getting a manager, getting a good agent in LA, things just started happening for me because of The Chosen. So it's been wonderful. It's all been great for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lowell, you're gonna have like we didn't have a chance to talk about this yet, but like Lowell gets some special coverage. I mean, he like I think I might have told you before that in a way you get to play the surrogate for the audience because you witnessed the blind man, then they were very specific to take and follow you all the way through
Oh,
town,
yeah.
show us the geography
Yeah.
of you going back to camp, grabbing your family,
Yeah.
and coming back. That's pretty special.
It
Yeah.
was very special. It was a great day to shoot that, and it was just fun. And again, just talking about the spirit of the show being on set, and just how helpful everyone is on set. Again, doing the amount of coverage they get and doing take after take. I was starting to form some blisters on my feet from doing all that running. And they were incredibly helpful and responsive to that.
No tennis shoes.
Oh, and the shoes, yeah. But it was so special and so nice to do that. And just that was probably a half day just doing that, just running and getting my family,
Wow.
and bringing them back. But it was really special to see it too. It was really nice.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
want to say for people who are watching that the series regulars are everything you see on clips on Instagram and YouTube and more. They are
Yeah.
they're so fun, so nice, so friendly. They're like a when I arrived, I was like, God, please don't send me home. I'm not ready to go. I don't want to leave you guys. It's such a friendly, loving environment. You see them playing games, you see them doing this. So all those clips that people see, I just want them to know that it wasn't put on for the video, for just for for people to think they are like family. They really truly are like family. They're just, yeah, awesome set of people. Just really, really wonderful.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
100%. Steve, what about you?
On that in particular, I have just as much time, just as good a time off camera as on camera. I mean, I love hanging out with everybody.
Yes.
Everybody's so nice. Spent a lot of time with these guys right here. We went out to eat together a couple times. One time, just the three of us. Another time with most of the main cast, and just totally enjoying each other's company. Spent a lot of time with Aola. Loved his
Yeah.
company, and
My fellow Nigerian, shout out Ayola.
oh yeah, I was amazed to find out you guys were from the same area. It was cool. And then I felt the same when my week was up. I was like, I don't want to go. This is one of the best weeks of my life. I want to stay. Same.
Yeah.
Another very fun and wonderful thing that I would love to do, is just kind of walking around the set and the massive, expansive set that they've built there, and some of the scenes that you would see in other episodes, but they're not working on.
Yeah.
And that was the wonderful thing about retreating and getting my family, was going and sort of revisiting Tent City, back in season 3, and that area where we shot.
When
But
we were standing in front of the crowd looking out, we could see guys on horses. We could see the lake. It's like,
Oh,
I really wanted to see what was going on back there. It was so cool. And I do feel like I missed out on something by not being able to go back there. But man, our view it was the best. It was so cool.
Yeah, they'd taken that set picture of it, and I was like, oh wow, this is what they're looking at. This is really nice.
The guys on horses, and they had guys who were kind of stationary, and then they had just people patrolling back and forth on their horses, just as background noise. I don't know what you call it, but it was so cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, gang, we're over an hour here. We should probably start wrapping it up. I think a good way to wrap it up is just where can folks who are watching, where can fans either find you on the socials or maybe what you might be working on next? Nene, why don't we start with you?
All right. Instagram is my new favorite place to hang out. I'm on Facebook too, but I go more to Instagram now. So at Nenenwoko, Nenenwoko. is my handle on Instagram. And what was the second question?
And anything you're working on now or coming out in the future, something that where else
Oh,
people
okay. Well, I just did a short film that I cannot wait for people to see. I can't say much about it. I just shot it because it's still being edited, but it was one of the most wonderful experiences on set for an independent project. But the director, who is also the producer, her name is Imale. She was phenomenal. She was wonderful. So now after we shot that was when I met her. Now she and I are, and the writer of that short film are working on my next project, which stay tuned.
Ooh, nice.
That's so great. Lowell, what about you, my friend?
Yeah, so I'm currently on hold for something, which I probably shouldn't talk about, but we'll see what happens with
Well,
that.
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. And then just continuing some voiceover projects. Phil and I have done one of those together here in LA, and continuing to do the audition thing. You guys know how it is. So
Yeah.
But you're on Instagram. People can find you on Instagram, yeah?
Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, just Lowell Byers. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Steve, my friend.
And the same Instagram and Facebook by my name, probably migrating more and more towards Instagram also, Nene. Still active on both. Because of my time on The Chosen, I was asked to film a short called David, A King's Calling. I was offered the role of Samuel.
Nice.
So the Cook brothers saw me in The Chosen and they called me up, and the film turned out exceedingly well. They're going to submit it to some film festivals, and they're using it to pitch for a series.
Nice.
So if you haven't seen it, I strongly encourage you to see it. It's right up there with The Chosen. It's phenomenal.
And then Demetrius Troy, who played Lazarus, got involved somehow. Is that correct?
Yeah. After it was wrapped, previewed, shown, they took some feedback and they wanted to improve it. And so they brought Demetrius in as the voice of God.
Oh,
I haven't seen his version yet, the version with him in it yet.
nice.
And so I imagine that's the one they're going to send off to festivals. I'm not sure.
Very
And
cool.
then I wrote a short that we're producing in July. So hopefully that'll get off to some festivals as well.
Awesome. And then, dude, you're on the cover of some Ohio magazine. Like Steve is like cover model right now. What is this?
It's just this random thing. This woman who runs this fashion magazine, she's a fan of The Chosen. She heard I moved to the area. She said, "Hey, would you be interested in being the cover model for my magazine?"
Like a swimsuit cover, or what are we talking about?
No, this is real. This is not a
Place of July.
Oh, nice.
And so yeah, so I went. We did a photo shoot, which I'd never done before, and sure enough, they got an article on me, and I'm on the cover.
Nice.
Right.
That's
so
awesome.
Thank you.
fun.
It was fun. Appreciate it. I think I got the magazine around here somewhere. You guys talk. I'll be right back.
Okay.
And while he does that, yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is the main place that I play in, but fans, I think like if you're a Chosen fan and you reach out, I always want to try and respond, but I'm sure we all do. It's just, can't always do it right away. So, but love interacting with fans on both those sites. And then I got a short film that comes out, actually premieres today. I'm not going to be able to go over at Warner Brothers today. But it's going to screen at Warner Brothers today. And then I'm super thankful I'm shooting a guest spot on a network show next week. So
way cool. Congratulations. Can't wait to
Yes.
see your stuff. That's awesome.
yeah. Yeah. So plug it away. That's what we do, right? Keep hustling. There it is.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
Wow.
Very nice.
Hold it up some more. Hold it up some more. That's really lovely.
I'm not worthy.
Oh, look
This is
at
amazing.
that. That's
That was
really
My goal in life to pose for a magazine like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like I'm harmless.
Well, Lowell Byers, Nene Nwoko, and Steve Shermitt, Phil Shabazz, we've been the Smiling Pharisees with our pals. Thank you all for hanging out today.
Thank
Love
you so
y'all.
much.
Love you all. See you on the next one.
Ciao.
Bye.